It would be nice if leaving a toxic work environment was all it took to help heal your heart, to heal you from the struggles and abusive environment that you have been living in. But unfortunately, all of those days and months, maybe even years of manipulation, gaslighting, gossiping, and soul-crushing experiences that damaged your self-esteem will take a lot more than just leaving the toxic work environment. And in fact, you may take some of these traits that you had to develop to protect yourself with you onto the next job. So in this video, I'm going to tell you some strategies that you can use to heal your heart and your spirit if you have also lived through a toxic work environment. Hi, if you're new to my channel, my name is Jamie. I am a registered nurse and a professor. I started this channel as a way to support my nursing students as they navigate their careers and in the field of nursing, but really a lot of this advice could apply to anyone. And so I welcome you to join my channel. Please subscribe if you want just empowerment and self-care type of content. And I do have a whole class section on nursing lectures, but you don't have to watch those. Okay, so let's jump into this video. We could spend hours and hours talking about what a toxic work environment looks like and things that occur in a toxic work environment. This video is more on the healing process after leaving a toxic work environment, but I can't move on without talking about a couple of things. One is that manipulation can be so subtle, and really the mark of a true manipulator is that they leave you feeling like you're the one who has the problem, or that you're the one that is at fault, or that you are not trusting your own thoughts. So that is a true manipulator, someone who's causing you to doubt your own sanity. This is further reinforced by someone who is a gaslighter. So gaslighting is when someone really it has the ability to make you question your own judgment, your own thought process, make you feel like you misheard things, that you were going down a path and suddenly you were completely incorrect about what you thought was expected of you. If you've worked with people who are gaslighting you, this can really affect your self-esteem, your sense of self-worth. It can cause you to question your own reality, your memory, and overall it is just terrible for your mental health. And just like I was saying, it's a form of manipulation that can be so subtle that you don't even realize it until it's too late and you're already sort of a place where your self-esteem is very low. One of my personal favorite forms of manipulation is triangulation. And this is when the toxic coworker brings in another person falsely to create drama. And sadly, that third party might not even have ever said what this manipulating person has reported they said. They might not even be aware of what's going on. A good example of this would be if you and the manipulator are having a conversation and the manipulator says to you, "Oh, well, I think you should get the promotion, but I heard that Susan doesn't think you're competent enough to take that role." Poor Susan, she's not even in the room. And now you, as the person being told this, may feel uncomfortable going to Susan. And so this is a whole spiral. Well, now you don't trust Susan and you're feeling like, are you not competent? Triangulation can really cause problems, and manipulators love to use that tactic. And we can't talk about a toxic work environment if we don't talk about gossip. And workplace gossip, there's two different kinds. There's productive workplace gossip and interactions, such as who's up for a promotion or what's happening with our retirement plans. And then there is talking about people and their personalities when they aren't there. And this can really cause a very toxic work environment. And when you move forward, stay away from gossip as much as you can. So let's move on to the healing process once you have left a toxic work environment. And I think that I can also include if you can't leave the toxic work environment because of financial reasons, or I don't know, maybe where you're located. So let's just say you can't leave the toxic work environment, but now you've discovered that you truly are in one. We can still use these strategies to heal broken hearts over a toxic work environment. And something that we need to start with is we need to acknowledge that we need to give ourselves time to grieve. So what I mean by you need to give yourself time to grieve is that if you are in a toxic work environment, then obviously it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. And when you got hired for this job, you might have had ideas of, I'm going to be here until I retire, or I'm going to have so much growth and opportunity in this workplace. And if that hasn't happened, and instead you've been manipulated and your self-esteem is trashed, you need to allow yourself to grieve the loss of what you thought you were going to have. And you very well may have had it been a different working environment. Start by writing yourself a letter. You could also consider this a journal entry, but really make a conscious effort to write your former self a letter and break down all of the things that you have had to endure and how you're not going to let that happen to your future self ever again. If this has to do with boundaries, if people were crossing your boundaries and that was kind of what was causing you to have a toxic work environment, set up some new boundaries that you're going to stick to no matter what moving forward. I can give you an example of not having boundaries which caused a toxic work environment, even in my own situation. Because as a professor, I have 40 plus students every 16 weeks. And when I first became an instructor, I wanted to be available to them at all times. And so I would give them out my cell phone number and my email. And if they emailed me or called me at 9 o'clock at night, I would answer. And this is not their fault. It's my fault that then my just personal life was kind of falling apart and I wasn't creating work-life balance at all. So I have had to kind of curtail that over time. So if boundaries are part of your problem, make sure that you are clear with what is important to you, what boundaries you need to set for yourself, set them on paper so that you can review and reflect back when your boundaries are being challenged. As you move forward with your new mindset that you are no longer going to put up with a toxic work environment, you need to be prepared for what triggers you. What things happen in the workplace that trigger you to feel that deep shame or anger or resentment or fear? What are those triggers? Because you need to be able to recognize them, lovingly acknowledge that you're feeling those feelings, and then rely on your boundaries. What boundaries did you set that will support you when you're feeling triggered? If you are triggered, those feelings can be so overwhelming. They're such negative feelings: shame, anger, fear, resentment. Take a pause, acknowledge to yourself that you are feeling this fear, that you are feeling this shame, and be very kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Another strategy to heal our heart after a toxic work environment is to change our inner narrative. If you've been working in a toxic work environment, you have been inundated with negativity, with doubt, all of that negative feelings. And our brains are designed to be on the lookout for threats. So it's more comfortable to focus on the negative, to talk about the negative, to complain about the negative things. Whereas if we switch our brain and start to really only focus on the positive and take time, because you have to actually purposefully decide that you want to focus on the positive and then do so. That can help switch your mindset from a depressive, defensive, hurt point of view to one of more gratitude. A few ways that we can do that is to create a practice of gratitude. an attitude of gratitude, just appreciating everything that we have in our lives, and we need to consciously do this. So one way that I do this is I have a little journal on my bedside table, and before I go to bed, I write down a few things that I am grateful for. And for me, I just take all things like my husband, my children, obvious things off the table because I am grateful for them. They know it and I know it, but little things that happened in the day, like maybe I was grateful because I got to eat a really good lunch today, or I was grateful because I took time to walk my dogs this morning. So just moments of gratitude, because then you can go to sleep, not going to sleep with negative thoughts, but positive things that you are grateful for the day. You need to keep up this practice, and eventually it will become a part of your thought process, and maybe it isn't right now because of what you've just been going through. You can also start a positive moments sort of group chat with your family and friends. You can set it up on your phone, and whenever something positive happens, you can text the group. And then they'll text their positive moments, and it'll just be positively positive all around you all day long, every day. So that is another way to just sort of start flooding your brain with positive thoughts instead of those negative thoughts. One thing I have done that really helped me, and I hope that it will help you, is I named my negative voice. So the voice that said, Jamie, you're not doing this well, or Jamie, that was a huge mistake that you just made. I decided that that wasn't going to be me talking to me. It was someone else that I could tell to go where. And so I named that person. I actually named it Charlize Theron. And I named it that because of her character. I should have named her Ravenna, but her character in Snow White, she's so beautiful on the outside, but she's so ugly on the inside. And so Ravenna, Charlize, that's who I named my negative voice. And so when it would start talking to me, when I was working in that terrible toxic environment, I would just say, no, Charlize, we're not talking about that. We're not going down that path. And start to verbally, even if it's just in your mind, congratulate yourself on everything you do that is done well throughout the day. And you can even, honestly, this sounds so silly, but this works. Give yourself a hug, like a literal physical hug. Jamie, that was such an amazing parking job that you just did. Jamie, you really sent that email very efficiently. Jamie, this coffee that you made is amazing. Do it, you guys. Change the way that you think about yourself, because you are amazing. And because you've been working in a toxic work environment, they've crushed your spirit, and you've got to build yourself back up. Be patient with the healing process. It does take time, and it takes reinforcement. And I can't go through this whole video without saying sometimes it helps to talk to somebody. When I was very, very, very deep in a toxic work environment, I actually got therapy sessions free because of the company. The company provided like 10 free sessions a year, and that therapist was like, you need to quit this job. And I just kind of felt like that was funny, like, oh, I'm quitting because of the therapy provided by this company. So let me know if you have tried any strategies to get through a toxic work environment. Toxic work environment can really lead to imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is on us, but if your toxic coworkers are feeding into your insecurities that you're already kind of having due to imposter syndrome, it can really flare that up. If you want to know more about that, I would love to make a video on imposter syndrome too. And let me know what you would like to see from me in the comments, and I will be happy to make videos about it. And until next time, I'm giving you a hug. You're amazing.